This picture here is from Greece. It's from Epidaurus. And I just realized that it is 20 years since I was there taking that photo. Back then, I was doing research about how the ancient construction would improve learning, teaching. And I was also really, really fascinated about how could the acoustics work out so well, since it was all hard surfaces, all stone. I will not talk to you about that today, but I will try to give you another dimension of how learning environments are affected by sound. In Denmark, 4 years ago, I was part of a project together with the Danish ADHD organization. And we plan to do this project together because in Denmark we have taken down schools for kids with special needs and included them into normal classrooms. 85% of the special schools are now down and the kids are in normal classes. And the Danish ADHD organization has a lot of members now, and they are always to blame. Oh, it's your members. They are hyperactive. They are noisy. They are ruining our education system because they have to be in normal schools. And it is not the whole truth, I need to say that. So we went together with the organization, and we wanted to do some research projects in the schools for the kids to understand what happens in a classroom when you're noisy. And we, working with acoustics, we know that sometimes you can have the best conditions in the world and you will still have noisy kids. What is that all about? In this situation, we have a normal classroom and the kids are, I would say, really disciplined from a Danish perspective. And we gave a task to this boy. His name is Midas. He's in 2nd grade. He doesn't have ADHD or any known diagnosis. We gave him a piece of paper and we told him to be part of an experiment. And we told his friends, you are now part of an experiment. And if you say that to 2nd graders, they're like, okay, hit me. We told them to be as silent as possible. And then we told Midas to do his best drawing ever. He made this lovely tractor, and his friends were just like waiting for the result. And Midas showed us his drawing, and he was proud. And the teacher, he told me, this is what he does. He does that tractor every day. This is what he does. So we took the drawing away, and we said to Midas and the class, this was just a sketch. Now here is the extreme fine paper, whole other brand. Now do the drawing again, but just do it better. And then we told his friends that they could talk to each other. We told them they could act as if it was peer-to-peer work, group work. They could not run around in the classroom. They could just talk to each other and, pretend they were working. And we knew that this building from the 60s, it was like as if it were in the 60s. So the acoustic treatment was close to nothing. So we were expecting the noise to boom, to decrease, increase in level. And we were also planning for something to happen with the next drawing. And this is Midas' 2nd attempt. We had taken away drawing number 1. Midas was proud. Look, I did it again. Look at me. And then we showed him drawing number 1. How do you think he felt? He got so sad. He said, but I did my best. And we said, yes, you did your best, but this is what is happening when your working memory capacity feels a bit overloaded. This is what is happening when your brain constantly has to choose between listening and concentrating, and this is what is happening when you don't have a full auditory system, because kids don't have that. And you have to work at the same time. We told Midas, of course, that we knew that this was going to happen, so that he wouldn't be so sad. And then we showed him 67 drawings like that from other schools. Imagine when Midas has to do math in the same classroom, and the teacher says, now it's time to work in pairs and work in groups. Exactly the same thing will happen. The sound will be a problem if the building is not ready to support what we do today. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is not what we do today in schools. You are really disciplined. Must be because of your origin. The outline of my presentation is just briefly to touch upon why a company like Ecophon, who makes money on selling acoustic tiles and walls, why we do research. I will briefly explain what happens outside with our hearing, and then I will talk about education today. What does it look like from my perspective? I have a case study from a school in Denmark. We call the case study A Miracle in Thorning, or Torning, as we say in Danish. And I'll just touch upon a research study from 2006 to show you what happens to teachers when they're exposed to loud sounds. Then finally, I'll dig into open learning spaces and just a few tips before I go. As I said, Ecophon, here you can see our logo. We make money on selling things. And I just need to say that I'm the expensive part of Ecophon. I don't sell anything. I don't know much about our products. I know about their acoustic performance, but I cannot, if you called me tomorrow and said, I want to buy a box of those, I wouldn't know what to do. So what do I do then? Well, we try at Ecophon to collaborate with university, to external partners, to work on research projects, to make ourselves remember why we are here. Why do we need to sell acoustic products? Is that sustainable? Is it sustainable to have a big factory in Denmark and in Sweden that produce products? Yeah, well, we believe it is. Because when we look into the research, we can see that acoustics are important for people that are inside. Of course, it's important for us outside as well, but when we come in, something happens to the room. This is the natural environment. This is what our hearing has developed for thousands of years. We have been living outside for like maybe this long. We have been inside maybe this long. So our hearing, our system has developed for this part. And if we look at this picture, out here, the sound will pass our ears once and then it's gone. It's a perfect condition for a learning situation. Can you imagine having a classroom out here? The sound will not bounce back, the sound will not increase in level, and the direct sound, you will hear it perfectly. The sound travels fast, 340 meters every second. So look around. Even though we have done something in here to take care of the acoustics, you will hear echoes. You will hear late reflections from the walls. It's a good thing that we have a big, thick blanket on the back, because otherwise I will just hear myself again and again. That never happens out here. Out here, we also have only natural sounds, and that is what we are, again, that is what we have to to work with. If I keep my mouth shut a bit, you can hear the ventilation system. That could be a thunderstorm coming. So even though it doesn't bother you right now, your whole system is thinking, should I leave? Is this dangerous? Is it a bear approaching? No, I can wait. And you will filter it away because you chose to be here and listen to me, because you're civilized Norwegian people. But your whole system is alert. If someone slams the door, you will have a reaction like that because it's your fight-flight mechanism. So we are affected by sound all day, all night, because we are developed for this environment. And if we don't react out here, we will simply die. So, education. This looks like you guys. This is what the majority of the classrooms in Denmark are built for. It's built for one-way communication, like Joanne said earlier. Even teachers, they like it the best. They think they're in control. But the thing is, it doesn't look like that. It looks like that. Some of the students, they don't want to be there and they're aware of it. Some of them, they already know what the teacher has to say. And some of them are just not concentrated. We see a movement into more student-centered learning, away from teacher-based learning. And with that, we have what we call a multi-talker environment. And if you have more sound sources, you will simply have more noise, more sound. And that is why we have to work with acoustics. So this is also what we expect from our kids. Like the test we made with Midas, we wanted the kids to collaborate. Teachers today, they expect people to engage, to be part of the community in the classroom. They don't expect this situation. So, the rooms, they have not changed, and I'll try to dig into the research study we did in Torning, just to show what is happening in a classroom when it's an old classroom, and you have a normal Danish class with a hearing impaired girl in the 5th grade. This is the room. It is quite normal. As you can see here, you have a sliding door. You can take it away, and then you can have a big open space. So you can work in pairs and in groups and so on. And this situation is lunch. We don't use canteens much in Denmark. We bring our own food and then we eat in the classroom. And I just want to let you know what it sounds like. Hopefully it works. So, this is the situation in the classroom, and it's not really loud. Well, I have a sound level meter. You will see it in a second, and it will show around 70-80 decibels, which is around what you hear now. And if I didn't have the mic on, it would be really hard for me to get your attention. So imagine now I'm the teacher of the class. So please take your books out, and we have to go to somewhere else. And oh, please take that box away. Listen to what I'm saying. This could be the reality of a normal day in that classroom. And in this classroom, we have a girl called Signe. And she is hearing impaired, and she has hearing aids on both ears. And when we are invited to be part of this project, she does not have any friends in her class. She is bottom 3 academic skills. She is not really happy to do her homework. Every day her mom needs to kick her out of the door because she wants to be at home. She spends maybe 3 hours a day on a device like this, and during recess and lunch breaks, she will text her grandma because she simply cannot cope. It's not possible for her to hear, to be part of what is happening. So that's her life. She was not happy to be part of this project because then she would have attention toward her. But we went into this project and we chose to include the whole school. So we had a full day of teaching everyone in the school about the hearing, about what does it feel like when you're hearing impaired, and what is acoustics, what is sound, what is this strange energy we call sound. The scope of this study was to investigate several acoustic descriptors. We investigated reverberation time, the echo of the room, and especially speech clarity, since this was the problem for the hearing impaired girl. And then, of course, the sound pressure levels. We looked particularly into low frequency noise, because that is what can mask communication. That can be a good thing in an open office, that you cannot hear what the neighbor is saying. But in a classroom where you want to interact, that is really not good. We wanted to investigate what is the acoustic conditions of the room when we have total silence and when we add background noise. What will happen to the kids' performance? And then, of course, we wanted to test the class average in comparison to seniors' abilities to solve some problems. We did this design. We made a pre-test where we did acoustic measurements and we performance tested the class. Then we did a room acoustic intervention where we mounted a ceiling and some wall panels. We did a post-test that was the same as the pre-test, acoustic measurements and performance testing of the kids. And then when the project was done, we left the class alone for 3 months, and then we came back and said, ta-da, we are back. Did you forget about it? And then we tested them again, just to see if it was the same as the post-test. We had a challenge. We didn't have any standardized material for performance testing where you should both look at acoustics and hearing impairment. We have a lot of standards in regards to acoustics and a lot with hearing impairment, but nothing in between. So I hooked up with an audiologist from Sweden, and we brainstormed and we worked for 53 hours non-stop to find the best material for this project. And one of the things we were interested in was to test the working memory of the kids, because that is what you need to use when you learn new things. If you have math and you learn a new word and you have to put it into some context, it's a good thing if you remember it when you come home and have to do your homework. So the testing material in this matter were these pictograms, and then the kids would hear 5 of them, and then they had to mark the order of the pictograms. This is just a sound file for one of them. Gryde, it says. Lovely Danish word, huh? Gryde. Gryde. They would hear these 5 words, and then they had to mark the order, and we did it both in silence and with added background noise. The other testing material was commutation pairs, and that is when you say two words that are similar, and in this case you had the same articulation place in your mouth. In Danish we have kick, gik. I don't know if you can hear the difference between the K and G, and we have bong, pong, mor, nor, and so on. And this was made especially to find out what details, what quality of language does Signe hear. And this is where she should really score the lowest. So the results, let's start with the room. As you can see here, we just made a suspended ceiling below the original one. And then we had an extra bass absorber to take care of the low frequency noise, because that is normally what we have a big issue with in classrooms. We have uneven curves in reverberation time, where we have a really long reverberation time in the low frequencies. And then we added wall absorption to take care of the late reflections of the sound that can mask the direct sound. So we would have a good quality. Actually, what we try to do here is to make it look like the outdoors, because outside, this would be all the open areas in the woods. The trees are good for scattering like furniture in a classroom. And here we have the acoustic sky where nothing comes back. So we actually try to mimic nature here. The measurements here, the results for the room, you can see here is a reverberation time curve. That was before we did anything in the classroom, and above a second, that is really That is long reverberation time, but this is what we see in classrooms from the 60s, from the 70s, from the 80s that are not refurbished acoustically. And this was a result after our small intervention, going from above a second to a more uniform curve here. And what you can see here on speech clarity, the red one is before and the blue one is after. It goes from a negative value to a really positive value. If we compare it to your Norwegian standard, you have class A, B, C, D. This is close to class A. You have another acoustic descriptor here called speech transmission index, but it is related to C50. That's another descriptor. There is an algorithm, so you can actually calculate them together. So this is close to this. So we went from class something up here to class A just by mounting a suspended ceiling, extra bass absorbers, and a few wall panels. It's not rocket science. Come on. We can travel to the moon. We can fix acoustics. So I will try to play some sound here. This is me popping a balloon in 2 rooms, the one without acoustic treatment and the other one with acoustic treatment. Here it goes in the bad room and in the good room. You can feel that the impulse response from the room has changed. And this is the best tool I can give you. Buy a bunch of balloons and pop them all over the world. And then you will learn about acoustics, but I mean it. But just warn people before you do it. But it is a good, it's not real equipment according to standards and so on, but it can give you a feeling if this is good or not good. So buy balloons. So the most interesting results, how did the kids perform then? This is the class average before the acoustic intervention. And these ones are in silence. These are working memory capacity. And as you can see, they will drop in level when we add background noise. But this is actually what is happening when we have an acoustic ceiling and some wall panels. So the class, we were there to help the hearing impaired girl, but the class in total performed much better. This is what happens to Signe. She was actually the top performer of the class. But this is her reality, because she's never in that classroom in silence. And now I'm getting emotional because, sorry. This is her life. This is her potential. How do you feel about knowing that you can do much better? If only you had different conditions. It is awful. But this showed the girl and her family that she actually had some capacity, some potential that wasn't fulfilled. When we look into the commutation pairs, these are the results for the class. This was before the acoustic treatment, and we actually see that they perform better with added background noise. I'm not so sure about this. We did the post-testing only one day, one time. So it is not maybe the whole truth, but it's a rule of thumb. They become better in this task as well. They can hear speech more clearly. And this is what happens to Signe. Again, this is her reality. And even when the classroom is totally silent, before we work with it acoustically, she doesn't perform very well. What is interesting is this. She can actually hear the sounds. Look at her score. She's just about to be the top performer again, where she has a disability. So, this is her potential. This is her reality. These were the results we could measure, and we could stop here and say, well, here is the academic paper, and I could present it at an acoustic conference. But the school leader, she did something else. I never got to the academic paper because she took me by the hand to go to the local government, to the municipality and say, look at these results, we need money. And she actually got 1 million euros to refurbish her school acoustically. And then I could say, I cannot sell anything, but I can call someone. So she made a great effort for these kids. And this is Signe. This is what she looked like at our delayed post-test. She had friends, she was happy, her grades had gone up. The only problem with this family that day was that her grandma never got another text message. This day is one of the best days of my life. And when we had been doing the last tests and we had handed out lollipops to the class, I had a meeting with the board and with the municipality people and the hearing organization who were at the school I had to present that day. And when I was walking from the classroom to the teacher's room, I was met in the corridor by a small lady like this, and she was really determined, and she just grabbed me by the shoulders and she nearly screamed into my face, "You can never leave this school!" And I was like, "Sorry, ma'am, I have to, I'm not a teacher here." And then she started to cry, and it was Signe's mom. And she told me that we had changed her life, her family's life. I was really happy, and I was really pissed off, because it's just a ceiling and some wall panels. It's not about the money when you build a new school. Acoustics are for free if you get it into the design phase. But it's the one thing that people will complain about when it's built and it doesn't work. We have a small film about the miracle in Thorning on our website if you want to learn more about it. So what about the teachers? I'm running out of time here. Teachers complain. Do we have any teachers in here today? Okay, why do you complain? All over the world. Oh, it's so tough to be a teacher. Oh, we have a lot of things to do. We have bad management. We have no money. We have rude kids. Well, if we look into sound, sorry. We had a study in Bremen where we monitored teachers' heartbeats and tried to see if there were any correlation to the sound pressure levels. On this axis, we have the sound pressure level. Here we have the hours during the day, and here we have the teacher's heart rate. And this is the sound during a day in a German classroom. They are like you guys. So the question is, what does a teacher's heart rate look like? This is a PhD study. Went on for 3 years. And this curve is the teacher's heart rate. What do you think about this? Is it only teachers that should complain about sound and noise? No. We're all affected. And we react not to average sound levels that we normally measure. We react to peaks. Imagine me with my head in a freezer and my feet in an oven. Average is fine, but I'm not fine. And as you can see, the teacher's heart rate is above 90. So it's not just the kids that cannot fulfill their potential, it's also the teachers who have a really hard time doing what they really, really want to do. Teach, communicate, make the next generation better. Open space, I haven't really touched upon it. We see a lot of transformation going on from cellular to open space. This is just an example from Witzenhausen in Germany, where they don't have any doors. They optimized the acoustics with ceilings and walls, and then they made a more transparent environment. As you can see, here is a loud sound, but it doesn't bother the class next door. No doors. How much does a door cost? Way more than an acoustic ceiling. In Holland, in the Netherlands, we have the werkplaats, where we have an existing part and then a new part. We are more in that area. We're a more open environment. We have added acoustics also here, so they can collaborate in small teams in an open environment like an office, and it works out just fine. So I'm almost done now. I have some good ideas for you when you build your next school or education facility, because it's not just about acoustics. Acoustics, I'm so sorry, is not first. First is, what is the educational vision and leadership here? You have to define it before you go into a project with a new school or facility. If you're an architect, this is where you should ask questions. Design the learning before the spaces. Remember that. If you don't know what is going to happen in your building, it could be a disaster when it's done. Management and behavior is also something you have to discuss before you make the frame. And now, acoustics. You can optimize it, and it's not rocket science. It's just the ceiling and walls. If you forget everything I've said, remember this. Almost a timeout. Something on the ceiling, on the walls, like the forest. And then we have something we call activity-based acoustic design. That is also related to all of this. Who are the people? What does a room look like? What will they do? If you know these three things, you will most likely have success. And then this, we often forget about it. When a new teacher comes into a school or an education facility, tell them about what the vision is. How should they utilize the space? Because if they do like this, in an area where we have group work and peer-to-peer work and projects all over the place, it will be a disaster. So, users or makers, that was the title of your day or your full conference. And I was thinking about it. Churchill actually said, we shape our buildings and then the buildings shape us. Then we users. But we have actually a Danish architect, Sten Ejler Rasmussen. And I read his book about feeling architecture years ago. And he had this particular chapter about Piazza di Spagna, the Spanish Steps. And he was looking at this masterpiece of architecture. And then some Spanish boys came and played soccer up and down the steps. They were makers. They were definitely makers. Maybe it wasn't planned for that, but that was what was happening. And that is what is happening in the school. If you have a room meant for something, if the acoustics don't work, you will see people be makers, never users. So, thank you for your attention.